What would you do if the man you loved turned your own pregnancy into a weapon against you? Sarah thought she was living a fairy tale with billionaire Derek Stone until she discovered the prenuptial agreement that would steal her baby and destroy her life. But Derek made one fatal mistake. He underestimated the quiet business partner who had been secretly in love with Sarah for years. This is the shocking true story of systematic abuse, medical manipulation, and one woman's desperate fight for freedom. But I have to warn you, what Derek planned for Sarah in that psychiatric facility will leave you speechless. If stories of courage against impossible odds inspire you, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories. Trust me, you won't see this twist coming. The gavel echoed through the courtroom like a gunshot. Sarah Mitchell's hands trembled as Judge Harrison's words crashed over her like a tidal wave. Custody is hereby awarded to the father, Derek Stone. 18 months earlier, none of this seemed possible. The Silicon Valley mansion gleamed under string lights as tech executives mingled on the marble terrace. Sarah smoothed her black maternity dress over her 7-month bump, playing the perfect hostess at Derek's latest networking event. Her smile never wavered, even as her feet screamed in the designer heels Derek insisted she wear. "The expectant mother looks radiant," someone commented, and Sarah nodded graciously. She'd mastered this role over the past 3 years as Derek Stone's partner. Beautiful, supportive, silent when needed. Derek appeared at her elbow, his hand possessive on her lower back. "Darling, you should sit down. The baby needs rest." His voice carried that tone she knew too well, loving concern that masked absolute control. "I'm fine, Derek, just enjoying the party." His fingers pressed harder against her spine. A warning. "I insist. Marcus can handle the investors for a few minutes." Across the terrace, Marcus Hayes looked up from his conversation with venture capitalists. Derek's childhood friend and business partner caught Sarah's eye, offering a subtle smile of support. Where Derek's attention felt like surveillance, Marcus's felt like genuine care. As Derek guided her to a chair, Sarah noticed how he positioned himself between her and the other guests, protecting his investment. She thought bitterly. That's all she was now, an investment carrying his heir. Water. Marcus appeared with a glass, concern creasing his features. "You looked a little pale." "She's perfect," Derek interjected, but Marcus was already helping Sarah sit, his hand steady and warm on her arm. "Thank you," Sarah whispered, accepting the water gratefully. For just a moment, she felt like a person instead of a possession. Derek's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Marcus, the Peterson Group is asking about our Q4 projections." It was a dismissal, and they all knew it. Marcus hesitated, glancing at Sarah. "Of course. Feel better. Sarah." As Marcus walked away, Derek's mask slipped for just an instant. Sarah caught the flash of something dark in his eyes. Not love, not concern, but calculation. "You're very friendly with my business partner," Derek said quietly, settling into the chair beside her. He was being kind. "I felt dizzy. Pregnancy can make women emotional, prone to misreading situations." Derek's hand found her knee, squeezing gently. To anyone watching, it looked affectionate. Sarah felt the bruises from his last display of affection throb beneath her dress. "I should check on dinner," she said, starting to rise. "No need. I've arranged everything." Of course he had. Derek arranged everything in her life now. Her meals, her schedule, her doctor's appointments. Even her prenatal vitamins came pre-sorted in a weekly dispenser he filled personally. "You take such good care of us," Sarah managed, hating how the words tasted like ash. Derek's smile was triumphant. I always protect what's mine. The word mine hung in the air between them like a threat and a promise. Sarah placed her hand on her belly, feeling the baby shift restlessly. Soon there would be two of them trapped in Derek Stone's golden cage. But that night, as she lay in their bed, listening to Derek's satisfied breathing, Sarah allowed herself one dangerous thought. What if there was another way in the guest room down the hall? Marcus stared at the ceiling, thinking the exact same thing. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Derek's home office as Sarah knocked on the heavy oak door. No answer. She knew he'd left early for his CrossFit session, always maintained his schedule with military precision. She needed her passport. Derek had been safekeeping all her important documents since she moved in, claiming it was for security. But Sarah's sister Jessica had been texting about a family emergency, and she needed to prove she could travel if necessary. The office was Derek's sanctuary, all dark wood and leather, designed to intimidate. Sarah had only been inside a handful of times, always with Derek present, always for show. Now, alone among his awards and photos with politicians, she felt like an intruder in her own home. The desk drawers were locked, but she remembered seeing Derek use the combination on his safe once, their baby's due date, because even his security codes revolved around his control over her life. The safe clicked open, revealing neat stacks of documents. Her passport sat on top, along with their prenuptial agreement. Sarah grabbed the passport, then paused. She'd signed the prenup 3 years ago. Barely glancing at the legal language Derek's attorney had rushed her through. Standard protection, Derek had assured her. Nothing that affects our love. Now, with lawyer sister Jessica's voice echoing in her head about reading every contract, Sarah found herself scanning the dense legal text. The words hit her like physical blows. In the event of pregnancy, custody of any resulting children shall default to the primary income provider. Failure to produce a healthy heir within the specified time frame shall result in immediate termination of cohabitation agreement. Upon dissolution of relationship, secondary party waives all claims to shared assets and shall vacate premises within 24 hours. Sarah's hands shook as she read further. She wasn't Derek's partner. She was his breeding stock with an expiration date. The baby she carried wasn't their child. It was his property. Find what you were looking for. Sarah spun around. Derek stood in the doorway, still in his workout clothes, face unreadable. I needed my passport. Jessica called about Mom. And decided to read our private documents. Derek stepped into the office, closing the door behind him. The click of the lock sounded like a death sentence. Derek, this contract. It says if the baby has any problems, you can just throw me out. It says you get full custody, no matter what. You signed it willingly. I didn't know what it said. You rushed me through it, told me it was standard. Derek's expression shifted, the loving mask finally falling away completely. What remained was cold, calculating, utterly without empathy. Sarah, darling, you're an intelligent woman. Did you really think I'd tie myself to someone like you without protection? Someone like me. You're not from my world. Your family has no money, no connections, no influence. You're here because you're young, beautiful, and capable of giving me what I need. But I'm not stupid enough to let emotion compromise my future. Sarah's legs nearly gave out. The baby. You talk about our baby like it's a business transaction. Because it is. I need an heir. You're providing one. In exchange, you've lived in luxury for 3 years. Consider it compensation for services rendered. The casual cruelty of his words left Sarah breathless. What if I leave? What if I take the baby and go? Derek's smile was sharp as a blade. Read Section 12. Sarah's eyes found the paragraph. Her vision blurred as she read about her mental health history and documented emotional instability, all fabricated, all carefully constructed to make her look unfit for custody. You made this up. I documented everything. Your mood swings during pregnancy, your increasing paranoia and accusations, your isolation from friends and family, which you chose, by the way. No one forced you to stop seeing Jessica, but they both knew that wasn't true. Derek had systematically undermined every relationship Sarah had, finding reasons why each friend was toxic or jealous until she'd slowly withdrawn from everyone who might have supported her. You planned this. From the beginning. I plan everything. Sarah, it's how I built a billion-dollar company. Did you think I'd be less strategic about my personal life? Sarah clutched the contract, evidence of her own destruction. I won't let you do this. I'll fight you. With what resources? What lawyer will take your case against my legal team? What judge will believe your word against mine? Derek straightened his posture, every inch the powerful CEO. You have no money, no allies, and soon you'll have a baby who needs stability. I can provide that. You can't. I'm still the mother. For now. Derek's tone was matter-of-fact, discussing her motherhood like a temporary employment contract. But maternal rights can be terminated under the right circumstances. Mental illness, substance abuse, child endangerment, all documented, all admissible in court. The room spun around Sarah. Every loving gesture, every moment of apparent care had been calculated, building toward this moment when Derek would reveal the trap he'd spent years constructing. Why are you telling me this now? Because you're 7 months pregnant, and it's too late for you to do anything about it. Also because I believe in honesty between business partners. Derek moved to his desk, calmly organizing papers as if he hadn't just destroyed her world. I suggest you focus on having a healthy baby. Everything else has already been decided. Sarah stumbled from the office, the contract still clutched in her trembling hands. In the hallway, she nearly collided with Marcus, who was arriving for his morning meeting with Derek. Sarah, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. She stared at him, Derek's childhood friend, his business partner, someone else who'd been watching her performance for 3 years. I'm fine, she managed, just tired. But as she hurried past him, Sarah caught something in Marcus's expression, not calculation like Derek's, but genuine alarm, almost like he'd been afraid this moment would come, almost like he'd been preparing for it. Marcus found Sarah in the garden that evening, sitting on the stone bench where she often retreated when Derek was working late. She looked fragile in the twilight, her usual composure shattered. He told you about the contract, Marcus said quietly, settling beside her on the bench. Sarah's head snapped up. You knew. I've known Derek since we were 12. I've watched him systematically destroy anyone who threatened his control. Marcus's voice was heavy with guilt. I hoped. I kept thinking, maybe with you it would be different. But you never warned me. Would you have believed me 3 years ago? You were so in love with him, and I was a coward. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. I told myself I was protecting our friendship, our business. Really, I was protecting myself. Sarah studied his profile in the growing darkness. Marcus had always been the quieter partner, content to let Derek take the spotlight while he handled the technical aspects of their company. But she'd noticed things over the years. How Marcus deflected Derek's cruelest comments. How he went out of his way to treat her like a person instead of an accessory. Why tell me now? Because yesterday, I found something that changed everything. Marcus pulled out his phone, showing her a video file. Derek's been filming your medical appointments. Sarah's blood turned to ice. What? Hidden cameras in Dr. Williams's office. Derek arranged it, claimed it was for security. But he's been editing the footage, taking your questions about pregnancy symptoms out of context to make you look paranoid and unstable. The video showed Sarah at her last appointment, asking about the vitamins Derek insisted she take. But Derek's edited version made her questions sound like drug-seeking behavior. Her concern about side effects looked like mental instability. He's building a case against me for when he takes the baby. It's worse than that. Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper. Sarah, I think he's been drugging you. The words hit her like a physical blow. What? Those prenatal vitamins he gives you personally. I had them tested. They contain experimental compounds, nootropics his company has been developing. He's been using you as a test subject. Sarah's hand flew to her belly. The baby. I don't know what the effects might be, but I have the lab results. And I have other evidence. Financial records showing he's done this before. Other women, other children, all the relationships ended the same way. Other children. Sarah's voice was barely audible. At least 3 that I've found. All custody awarded to Derek due to maternal instability. All the women disappeared from public records afterward. The garden seemed to spin around Sarah. Derek wasn't just manipulative, he was a predator who'd perfected his system over years of practice. Why are you helping me now? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw with honesty. Because I've been in love with you since the day Derek brought you home. Because I've watched him slowly destroy the woman I fell in love with. And I can't watch anymore. Sarah's breath caught. In 3 years, Marcus had never given any indication of his feelings beyond friendship. I'm not telling you this to pressure you, Marcus continued quickly. I know you're vulnerable right now, and I won't take advantage of that. But I needed you to understand why I'm willing to risk everything to help you. Risk everything. Derek will destroy me if he finds out. Our company, my reputation, my family's financial security. It's all tied up with him. But some things are more important than money. Sarah felt tears threatening for the first time since discovering the contract. Someone was finally offering to help her, not for their own gain, but simply because it was right. What can we do? He has all the power, all the resources. We build our own case, slowly, carefully. I've been copying files for months, financial records, the video evidence, communications with his lawyers. We document everything he's done to you and the other women. And then, we find you a lawyer who can't be bought. We get you somewhere safe to have the baby. And we fight. Sarah wanted to hope, but Derek's words echoed in her mind. He said no lawyer would take my case against his legal team. Not for money, maybe, but there are lawyers who take cases like this pro bono, civil rights attorneys, women's advocates, people who fight powerful men like Derek because it's what they believe in. It could take years, and in the meantime, he has control over everything, my medical care, where I live, what I eat. Marcus reached for her hand, his touch gentle and warm. Then we make sure you're not alone. I'll be at every doctor's appointment. I'll make sure you have allies he doesn't know about. And when the time comes, we'll be ready. For the first time in months, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. It was small and fragile, but it was real. Why should I trust you? You've been part of his world for years. Because I'm the only one who knows where all the bodies are buried. And because... Marcus hesitated, then met her eyes directly. Because I'd rather lose everything I've built than watch him destroy you and your baby. In the distance, they heard Derek's car pulling into the driveway. Marcus quickly pocketed his phone and stood up. Think about what I've said, but don't take too long. Babies don't wait for perfect timing. As Marcus walked back toward the house, Sarah remained on the bench, one hand on her belly, feeling the baby move restlessly inside her. For the first time in months, she wasn't completely alone in Derek's web, but she also knew that accepting Marcus's help would put them both in terrible danger. Derek Stone didn't just win, he annihilated anyone who opposed him. The question was whether the risk of fighting was greater than the certainty of losing if she did nothing. 3 weeks passed in careful normalcy. Sarah played her role perfectly, the grateful, expectant mother, excited about their future. Derek seemed satisfied with her compliance, his suspicions apparently at rest. But beneath the surface, everything had changed. Marcus had installed an encrypted messaging app on Sarah's phone, hidden among other pregnancy apps Derek wouldn't think to check. Through it, he'd been sending her copies of financial records, legal documents, and medical files that painted a horrifying picture of Derek's systematic abuse of women. Amanda Chen, 2019, read one file. Custody awarded to Derek Stone due to maternal psychological instability. Subject relocated to Portland under sealed records. Lisa Rodriguez, 2021, read another. Psychiatric hold recommended due to postpartum depression and substance abuse allegations. Child remained with father. Each case followed the same pattern: isolation, documentation of supposed mental illness, legal maneuvering that left the women powerless and Derek with complete control of their children. Sarah was reading through the files when Derek entered their bedroom, causing her to quickly switch to a pregnancy yoga video. "How are you feeling today, darling?" Derek sat on the edge of the bed, his hand immediately going to her belly in that possessive gesture she'd learned to hate. "Good. The baby's been very active." "Excellent. Dr. Williams wants to see us tomorrow for another ultrasound. I've rearranged my schedule to accompany you." Sarah's heart sank. Derek had been attending every appointment lately, his presence ensuring she couldn't speak freely with the doctor about her concerns. "That's sweet of you, but I know how busy you are. I could ask Marcus to drive me." Derek's hand stilled on her belly. "Marcus has been very attentive lately, almost protective. He's been kind, like a friend. Friends can sometimes overstep boundaries, especially with pregnant women. Hormones can make you vulnerable to misreading intentions." There it was, the subtle gaslighting Derek used to make her question her own perceptions. Every kindness became manipulation. Every concern became hormonal instability. "I trust my judgment," Sarah said carefully. "Of course you do, but pregnancy affects judgment. Darling, it's biological fact. That's why you need me to help you make important decisions." Derek's phone buzzed, and he glanced at it with annoyance. "I need to take this call. Rest up for tomorrow's appointment." After he left, Sarah's phone vibrated with a message from Marcus. "Emergency, garden, 5 minutes." Sarah found Marcus pacing among the rose bushes. His usual calm shattered. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "Derek knows I've been copying files. He's installed surveillance software on all company computers." "How much does he know?" "Everything, the financial records, the medical files, our communications." Marcus's face was grim. "He's been watching us, letting us think we were being clever while he built his own case." Sarah felt the walls closing in around her. "What does this mean?" "It means we're out of time. Derek's moving up his timeline." "What timeline?" Marcus pulled out a printed email, his hands shaking slightly. He's been communicating with a private psychiatric facility in Nevada. They're expecting a patient next week, a pregnant woman suffering from paranoid delusions and substance abuse. Sarah's legs nearly gave out. He's going to have me committed. The facility specializes in treating difficult patients. They have legal authority to hold people indefinitely if they're deemed a danger to themselves or their unborn children. But I'm not using drugs. I'm not mentally ill. The vitamin tests show synthetic compounds in your system. Derek's documented months of your increasingly erratic behavior, and now he has evidence of your conspiracy theories about him and your inappropriate relationship with me. Sarah realized the trap's true genius. Derek had let her discover his plans, let her think she was fighting back, all while documenting her resistance as proof of her instability. We have to run, tonight. Where he has resources everywhere, private investigators, legal connections, political allies, and you're 8 months pregnant. You can't exactly disappear. Then what do? Marcus was quiet for a long moment, weighing impossible choices. We force his hand, make him show his true face in public where it can't be covered up. How? Your sister Jessica, she's been trying to reach you for weeks, right? What if she had a family emergency that required you to travel immediately? Derek would never let me go. Exactly. And if he physically prevents a pregnant woman from seeing her dying mother, if he has to restrain you or call security, there would be witnesses. People would start asking questions. It was desperate, but it might be their only chance to break Derek's careful narrative of being the concerned partner protecting an unstable woman. What about the baby, if I'm too stressed, if something happens? Sarah, if Derek gets you committed, you'll lose the baby either way. At least this gives us a fighting chance. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the baby kick against her ribs as if sensing her distress. In 48 hours, Derek planned to have her locked away where no one could hear her protests. No one could verify her claims. Okay, what do we need to do? I'll have Jessica call with the emergency tomorrow morning, right before your doctor's appointment. Derek will have to choose between maintaining his public image and his control over you. And if he chooses control? Marcus met her eyes steadily. Then we'll have witnesses to his true nature, and I'll make sure those witnesses can't be silenced. As they walked back toward the house, Sarah felt the baby settle into stillness, as if even her unborn child sensed the approaching storm. Tomorrow, Derek's carefully constructed facade would finally be tested. She only hoped she and her baby would survive the collapse. The call came at 7 a.m., just as Derek was reviewing his presentation for the day's board meeting. Sarah watched from the breakfast table as his expression shifted from annoyance to calculation. Yes, Jessica, I understand your mother is in the hospital, Derek said, his voice perfectly modulated with concern. But Sarah is 8 months pregnant. Travel at this stage could be dangerous. Sarah's hands clenched around her coffee cup. Through Marcus's coordination, Jessica was playing her part perfectly, frantic about their mother's supposed heart attack, demanding that Sarah come to Phoenix immediately. Perhaps we could arrange for your mother to be transferred to a facility here in California. Derek continued. I'd be happy to cover the expenses. Sarah stood up, reaching for the phone. Let me talk to her. Derek's hand tightened on the phone, his eyes flashing a warning. Darling, you're too emotional for this conversation. Let me handle the logistics. She's my mother. Derek, I need to speak with my sister. Of course. Derek handed her the phone, but his fingers brushed hers in what looked like a loving gesture. To Sarah, it felt like a threat. Jess. Sarah tried to keep her voice steady. How bad is it? Jessica's voice was thick with tears, real emotion that Derek couldn't script. The doctors say it could be hours. Sarah, she's been asking for you. I know the pregnancy makes travel difficult, but I'm coming. Today." Derek's mask slipped for just an instant, his true face showing through before the loving concern returned. "Sarah, as your partner and the father of our child, I can't allow you to risk the baby's health." "You can't allow me," Sarah's voice carried clearly across the breakfast room, where two housekeeping staff were quietly working. "Derek, my mother is dying. Your emotional state is compromised. You're not thinking clearly about what's best for our child." Sarah felt the trap closing, but she also felt a strange liberation. After months of careful performance, she was finally allowed to show her true feelings. "What's best for our child is having a mother who can make her own decisions. I'm going to Phoenix." "I'm afraid I can't permit that." Derek moved between Sarah and the door, his posture shifting subtly. Anyone watching would see a concerned man protecting his pregnant partner. Sarah saw the predator finally dropping his disguise. "You can't permit it, Derek. I'm not your prisoner." "Of course not. But you're carrying my heir, and I have a responsibility to protect both of you from poor decisions." The housekeeping staff had stopped working, clearly uncomfortable with the escalating tension. "Good," Sarah thought. "Let them see. If you don't let me go to my mother, I'll never forgive you. You'll thank me when our son is born healthy because I prevented you from acting irrationally. Son, we don't even know the baby's gender yet." Derek's smile was cold. "I know many things you don't, darling, including what's truly best for our family." Sarah moved toward the door, and Derek's hand shot out, gripping her arm with enough force to leave marks. The housekeeping staff gasped audibly. "Mr. Stone." "Maria," the older housekeeper said hesitantly. "Perhaps the senora should speak with her doctor about traveling." Derek's head swiveled toward Maria with such venom that she stepped back. "This is a private family matter. I suggest you focus on your work." But the damage was done. Other people had seen Derek's true nature, his willingness to physically restrain a pregnant woman. Sarah felt a spark of hope. "You're hurting me," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Derek immediately released her arm, his expression shifting back to concerned husband. "I'm sorry, darling. I'm just worried about you and the baby." "Then prove it. Let me go to my mother. We'll discuss this privately." Derek's tone brooked no argument. "Ladies, please give us some privacy." As the staff reluctantly left, Sarah realized her window was closing. Once they were alone, Derek could control the narrative again. "I'm calling Marcus to drive me to the airport," she announced. "Marcus is in meetings all morning, and I've instructed our security team that you're not to leave the property without my approval. Doctor's orders." "What doctor's orders?" "Dr. Williams is concerned about your recent behavior, the mood swings, the paranoid accusations against me. He's recommended limiting your stress exposure." Sarah felt the walls closing in. Derek had anticipated every move, turned every ally against her. "That's not true." "Would you like me to call Dr. Williams now, have him explain his medical recommendations?" Of course, Derek could produce medical support. He'd probably been grooming Dr. Williams for months, sharing his edited videos and fabricated concerns about Sarah's mental state. "Fine, we'll go to the appointment as scheduled, but afterward, I'm going to Phoenix. We'll see what the doctor says about your fitness to travel." As Derek left for his meeting, Sarah slumped against the kitchen counter. Her dramatic confrontation had backfired spectacularly. Now Derek had witnesses to her irrational behavior and mood swings. He'd turned her attempts to escape into more evidence of her instability. Her phone buzzed with a message from Marcus: "Change of plans. Meet me at Dr. Williams' office." I have something that will change everything. Sarah stared at the message, wondering if this was another trap or her last real chance at freedom. Outside, she could see Derek's security team positioning themselves around the property. One way or another, today would end with her either free or completely under Derek's control. The baby kicked urgently against her ribs, as if sensing that their shared future hung in the balance. Dr. Williams' office felt different today. Sarah noticed the subtle changes immediately. A new camera mounted discreetly in the corner, papers on his desk that looked suspiciously like commitment forms, and the doctor's nervous energy as he greeted Derek with excessive warmth. "How are we feeling today?" Sarah, Dr. Williams asked, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "I'm fine. I'd like to discuss traveling to see my mother." Derek squeezed her hand, a gesture that looked supportive but felt like a warning. "Dr. Williams, I'm concerned about Sarah's emotional state lately. She's been having paranoid episodes, making accusations against me and our friends." "That's not true," Sarah protested, but Dr. Williams was already making notes. "Has she been taking her prescribed vitamins regularly?" The doctor asked Derek, as if Sarah wasn't in the room. "I've been monitoring her compliance, but I'm worried about her judgment regarding the baby's welfare." Sarah felt the familiar sensation of reality shifting around her, Derek's version of events becoming the official record. "I want to speak with Dr. Williams privately." "Of course," Dr. Williams said. "But given your partner's concerns about your emotional stability, I think it's best if he remains present for medical discussions." "My emotional stability?" Sarah's voice rose. "I'm perfectly stable. I just want to see my dying mother." Derek's hand tightened on hers. "See, these outbursts have been increasing. I'm worried about the stress affecting the baby." "What outbursts? I'm speaking normally." "Sarah, your voice is raised. You're agitated. This is exactly what I mean." Derek turned to Dr. Williams with practiced concern. "Should we consider the specialized care facility we discussed?" Sarah's blood turned to ice. They were doing it right here, right now, with medical authority backing Derek's lies. "I think a psychiatric evaluation might be beneficial," Dr. Williams agreed. "For the safety of mother and child?" "No." Sarah stood up abruptly. "I'm leaving." Derek stood as well, blocking her path to the door. "Darling, you're proving Dr. Williams's point. This is exactly the kind of erratic behavior that concerns us." "I'm not erratic. I'm trapped." The door opened suddenly, and Marcus walked in with a woman Sarah didn't recognize, middle-aged, professional, carrying a briefcase. "I'm sorry I'm late," Marcus said smoothly. "Dr. Williams, this is attorney Jennifer Walsh from the district attorney's office. She has some questions about your patient files." Dr. Williams went pale. "I don't understand. This is a private medical appointment." "Actually," Attorney Walsh said, producing a badge, "this is now a criminal investigation into medical fraud and conspiracy. Dr. Williams, you're under arrest for falsifying medical records and participating in a scheme to unlawfully commit mentally competent individuals." Derek's mask finally shattered completely. "This is ridiculous. Who do you think you are? I'll have your job." "Mr. Stone, you're also under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and domestic abuse," Walsh signaled, and two detectives entered the room. "We have quite a bit of evidence against you: video recordings, financial records, testimony from previous victims." "Previous victims?" Dr. Williams stammered. "Mr. Stone said this was legitimate medical intervention." "Like you legitimately intervened with Amanda Chen Lisa Rodriguez Jennifer Morrison." Walsh's voice was steel, We've found them all. Doctor, they're ready to testify. Sarah watched in stunned silence as Derek was handcuffed, his face twisted with rage and disbelief. For 3 years, he'd been untouchable, protected by wealth and power. Now he looked like what he'd always been, a predator finally caught. Sarah, Marcus said gently, are you okay? How did you do this? I contacted the FBI months ago. They've been building a case against Derek's entire operation, the company fraud, the medical conspiracies, the pattern of abuse. When I brought them evidence of what he was planning for you, they moved up their timeline. Derek struggled against the handcuffs, his voice venomous. You think this is over? I have the best lawyers money can buy. I'll destroy all of you. With what money? Attorney Walsh smiled grimly. Your assets have been frozen pending investigation. Your company's bank accounts, your personal funds, this house, all of it is evidence in a federal case. As Derek was led away, still threatening everyone in sight, Sarah felt her legs give out. Marcus caught her, his strong arms supporting her as the adrenaline finally crashed. The baby, she gasped. All this stress. We're getting you to a real doctor immediately, Marcus assured her. One who isn't on Derek's payroll. Dr. Williams was also being arrested, his protests about being an unwitting participant falling on deaf ears. Sarah watched her supposed medical advocate being handcuffed and realized how completely Derek had corrupted every aspect of her life. Ms. Mitchell. Attorney Walsh approached gently. I know this is overwhelming, but we need to get you somewhere safe. Derek's organization extends beyond what we've arrested today. Where can I go? He controlled everything. Where I lived, my money, my identification. We have a safe house specifically for victims in situations like yours, medical care, legal advocacy, financial assistance while we sort out your assets from his. Sarah felt the baby kick, and for the first time in months, it felt like a greeting instead of a distress signal. What happens now? Now you get your life back, Marcus said quietly. And Derek faces justice for what he's done to you and all the others. As they helped Sarah from the building, she caught a glimpse of news vans arriving. Derek's empire was collapsing in real time, his crimes about to become public knowledge. But Sarah's nightmare was finally, truly over. The safe house was nothing like Derek's mansion, a modest 2-story home in a quiet residential neighborhood, furnished with comfortable but simple furniture. To Sarah, it felt like paradise. The kitchen is fully stocked, explained Diana Chen, the victim advocate assigned to Sarah's case. Medical equipment is upstairs if you need monitoring, and there's 24-hour security, though it's discreet. Sarah touched her belly, feeling the baby's movements, strong and reassuring. How long can I stay? As long as you need. The federal program covers housing, medical care, and living expenses for victims of organized domestic abuse. Organized. That's what Derek's systematic destruction of women was. Organized crime, masquerading as relationships. Marcus appeared in the doorway, carrying Sarah's hastily packed belongings. I brought everything I could grab from the house before the FBI sealed it. Thank you. Sarah accepted the bags, then hesitated. Marcus, I need to ask you something directly. Anything. Why should I trust you? You were Derek's partner for years. You watched him manipulate me, control me. Why didn't you help sooner? Marcus set down the bags and faced her directly. Because I was a coward. Because I told myself I was protecting our business, our employees' jobs. Because I convinced myself that you seemed happy, that maybe I was misreading the situation. His honesty was raw, painful. And because I was in love with you, which made me second guess everything. I kept thinking, maybe I was seeing problems because I wanted to see them, because some part of me wanted Derek to be the villain. Diana excused herself diplomatically, leaving them alone in the modest living room. When did you finally decide to act? When I found the psychiatric facility correspondence. When I realized Derek wasn't just controlling you, he was planning to erase you completely. Marcus's voice cracked slightly. I couldn't live with myself if I let that happen. Sarah studied his face, looking for signs of Derek's manipulative charm. Instead, she saw genuine guilt, genuine pain, genuine love. What happens between us now? Whatever you want to happen, you're free now. Sarah, free to make your own choices, your own mistakes, your own life. I'm not going to pressure you for anything. But you want something? Marcus smiled sadly. I want you to be happy. If that includes me, I'd be honored. If it doesn't, I'll understand. For the first time in years, Sarah felt like someone was offering her a real choice instead of manipulating her toward a predetermined outcome. Her phone rang, Jessica, calling about their mother who was very much alive and well in Phoenix. Sarah, oh my God, I've been watching the news. Are you okay? Is the baby okay? We're fine, scared, but fine. Sarah sank into the couch, exhaustion finally hitting her. Jess, I'm so sorry I pulled you into this deception. Are you kidding? I've been terrified for you for months. That man never let me talk to you alone, never let you visit. I knew something was wrong. Why didn't you say anything? I tried, but every time I called with concerns, he had explanations. He made me sound like the jealous sister who couldn't accept your happiness. Sarah closed her eyes, thinking of all the people Derek had isolated her from, all the relationships he'd poisoned with his careful manipulations. I want to come see you, Jessica continued, and I want to be there when the baby comes. I'd like that, but Jess, there might be media attention. Derek's arrest is going to be a big story. Let them come. The world needs to know what that monster did to you. After the call, Sarah found Marcus in the kitchen, making tea with the careful attention to detail she remembered from better times. The arraignment is tomorrow, he said, handing her a cup. Walsh says Derek's lawyers are already trying to plea bargain. What does that mean for me? It means he knows he's going to prison. The question is for how long. Sarah wrapped her hands around the warm cup, feeling the baby settle into a more comfortable position. I want to testify. I want other women to know they can fight back. Are you sure his defense team will try to destroy your credibility? Let them try. I have nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Marcus sat beside her on the couch, careful to maintain respectful distance. The FBI found financial records showing Derek has been supporting at least 12 children from different relationships, all custody awarded to him through legal manipulation. 12. Sarah's heart broke for all those children, growing up thinking their mothers had abandoned them. Walsh thinks some of the women might come forward now. Seeing Derek's arrest might give them hope that they can reclaim their children. And if they can't, then at least their children will know the truth about what happened to their mothers. Sarah placed her hand on her belly, feeling the strong, steady heartbeat of her daughter. Yes, daughter, she was certain now, though Derek had insisted on referring to the baby as his son and heir. I want to name her Emma, Sarah said suddenly. Emma Hope Mitchell. Mitchell. My name. My choice. Sarah met Marcus's eyes. And I want you to be there when she's born. Not as Derek's replacement, but as my friend. As someone who helped save us both. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. I'd be honored. Outside, the sun was setting over their new neighborhood. Sarah watched families arriving home from work, children playing in yards, normal people living normal lives. Soon, she and Emma would be part of that normal world, free to make choices, free to love whom they chose, free to be themselves without fear. It wouldn't be easy. There would be legal battles, media attention, financial struggles while Derek's assets remained frozen. But for the first time in 3 years, Sarah felt hope instead of fear about the future. Derek Stone had tried to erase her, but she had survived. She had fought back, and she had won. The courthouse steps were packed with media as Sarah climbed them slowly, her hand resting on her 9-month pregnant belly. Emma was due any day now, but Sarah had insisted on testifying at Derek's sentencing hearing. "Miss Mitchell, how does it feel to see Derek Stone finally facing justice?" a reporter called out. Sarah paused, supported by Marcus on one side and Jessica on the other. "It feels like other women might have hope now. That's what matters." Inside the courtroom, Sarah took her place at the witness stand for the final time. Derek sat at the defendant's table, his expensive suit unable to hide the broken man beneath. His empire had crumbled completely, the company bankrupt, his assets seized, his reputation destroyed, but more importantly, the truth had emerged. "Ms. Mitchell," Prosecutor Walsh addressed her gently, "can you tell the court about the impact of Mr. Stone's actions on your life?" Sarah had practiced this statement, but now, facing Derek directly, the words came from her heart. "Derek Stone didn't just manipulate me. He tried to erase me. He isolated me from my family, controlled my medical care, drugged me without consent, and planned to have me committed to steal my child." Derek's lawyer started to object, but the judge silenced him. The evidence was overwhelming, the case already decided. But worse than what he did to me was the systematic nature of his crimes. He refined his techniques on woman after woman, stealing their children and convincing the world they were unfit mothers. Sarah's voice grew stronger as she continued. "I was lucky. I had Marcus Hayes to help me, and investigators who believed my story. But Amanda Chen, Lisa Rodriguez, Jennifer Morrison, and 7 other women weren't so fortunate. Their children grew up believing their mothers abandoned them." In the gallery, Sarah saw several of Derek's previous victims, women who had flown in from across the country to witness his downfall. Amanda Chen, now working as a teacher in Portland, tears streaming down her face. Lisa Rodriguez, who had rebuilt her life as a social worker, her jaw set with determination. Derek Stone is a predator who used his wealth and power to systematically abuse vulnerable women. But he failed with me, and that failure exposed his entire operation. Sarah turned to look directly at Derek, who for once couldn't meet her eyes. "I want him to know that his plan failed completely. My daughter will be born free, will grow up knowing she was wanted and loved, and will never doubt that her mother fought for her." When Sarah finished, the courtroom was silent except for muffled sobs from Derek's other victims. Judge Harrison reviewed his notes before speaking. "Mr. Stone, your crimes represent one of the most calculated and systematic patterns of domestic abuse this court has ever seen. You preyed on women's trust, corrupted medical professionals, and manipulated the legal system to steal children from their mothers." Derek's lawyer whispered something in his ear, but Derek shook his head, standing to address the court. "Your Honor, I built $1 billion company. I created jobs, drove innovation, contributed to society. These women were compensated for their services. They lived in luxury, received the best medical care." The arrogance was staggering, even facing life in prison. Derek couldn't see his victims as human beings. I gave those children stable homes, excellent educations, opportunities they never would have had with their biological mothers. Judge Harrison's expression was ice cold. Mr. Stone, you just proved exactly why you can never be allowed near children again. Derek Stone, I sentence you to 25 years to life in federal prison without possibility of parole. The gavel fell with finality. Derek's face crumpled as the reality hit him. He would die in prison, his empire gone, his legacy one of abuse and destruction. As he was led away in shackles, Derek turned back toward Sarah one final time. She met his gaze steadily, no longer the frightened woman he had controlled. You won't win, he called out desperately. Those children need me. The mothers are unfit. The children need their mothers, Sarah replied clearly. And now they can find them. Outside the courthouse, Sarah was surrounded by the other victims. Amanda Chen embraced her carefully, mindful of her pregnancy. Thank you, Amanda whispered. Because of you, I might get to see my son again. Lisa Rodriguez nodded agreement. The family court cases start next month. Derek's conviction changes everything. Attorney Walsh approached the group. Ladies, I have good news. The Victim Compensation Fund has been approved. Derek's seized assets will be distributed to help reunite families and cover therapy costs. What about the children? Sarah asked. How do we help them understand what really happened, or slowly, with professional help? But they're young enough to rebuild relationships with their mothers. Derek's poison hasn't had time to completely take root. As the group talked about healing and reunion, Sarah felt a sharp pain in her back. Marcus was immediately at her side. What's wrong? I think another pain, stronger this time. I think Emma decided this was the perfect day to make her entrance. Jessica laughed through her tears. She waited until justice was served. Smart girl. As Marcus helped Sarah toward the car, she looked back at the courthouse one final time. Derek Stone's reign of terror was over. His victims were free to reclaim their lives and children. And Sarah's daughter would be born into a world where her mother had fought for justice and won. Emma Hope Mitchell entered the world at 3:17 a.m., her strong cry echoing through the hospital room as if announcing her victory over the man who had tried to claim her before she was even born. Sarah held her daughter for the first time, tears streaming down her face as she looked into those alert, dark eyes. She's perfect, Jessica whispered, taking photos from her position beside the bed. Marcus stood near the window, giving the family space but unable to hide his wonder as he watched Sarah with her daughter. When Sarah looked up and caught his expression, she smiled. Would you like to hold her? Marcus approached carefully, accepting the tiny bundle with practiced gentleness. Emma settled immediately in his arms, her little fist wrapping around his finger. Hello, Emma, he said softly. Welcome to your new world. Dr. Patricia Stevens, Sarah's new physician, completed her examination with approval. Both mother and baby are perfectly healthy. No signs of any effects from the substances you were given. Emma's development is completely normal. It was the news Sarah had prayed for through months of worry. Derek's experimental drugs had left no lasting damage on her daughter. When can we go home? Sarah asked. A day or two for observation. But I understand you have some unusual circumstances to consider. The media attention had been intense. Derek's sentencing and Emma's birth had coincided to create a perfect storm of public interest in their story. The hospital had assigned extra security to prevent photographers from disturbing their peace. We've prepared a private exit, Dr. Stevens continued. And your victim advocate has arranged for continued security at your home. Home, Sarah still marveled at the word. The modest safe house had become more of a home in 3 weeks than Derek's mansion had ever been. Over the next day, visitors arrived to meet Emma. Amanda Chen brought her 8-year-old son Michael, who was slowly being reintroduced to his mother after 3 years of believing she had abandoned him. "She's so little," Michael observed, studying Emma with serious eyes. "Was I that small when my dad took me away from my mom?" Amanda's eyes filled with tears, but she managed to smile. "Yes, sweetheart, you were exactly that small. I'm sorry I believed him when he said you didn't want me. You were just a little boy. Michael, none of this was your fault." Sarah watched the reunion with hope. If Michael could reconnect with Amanda, there was hope for all of Derek's children. Lisa Rodriguez arrived that evening with updates from the family court proceedings. Judge Martinez is fast-tracking all the custody reviews. Derek's conviction invalidated most of his previous custody awards. How many children? 14 total, ages 3 to 12. Some remember their mothers, some don't. But we're all getting therapy and family reunification services. And Derek? Solitary confinement pending transfer to maximum security. His lawyers filed appeals, but Walsh says they're all procedural delays. He's never getting out. That night, as Sarah nursed Emma in the quiet hospital room, Marcus knocked softly on the door. "How are you feeling?" "Grateful, exhausted, free." Sarah shifted Emma to her shoulder for burping. "Have you been staying at the safe house?" "No, I got a hotel room. Thought you and Jessica needed space to bond as a family." "Marcus." Sarah waited until he met her eyes. "I've been thinking about what happens next, when all the legal proceedings are finished, when the media attention dies down, when Emma and I have our own place. And I keep thinking about everything you risked to help us, your career, your reputation, your financial security. Derek could have destroyed you completely." Marcus shrugged. "Some things are more important than money. I also keep thinking about how you held Emma just now, how natural it looked." Marcus's breath caught. "Sarah, I don't want you to feel pressured about anything. You've been through trauma. You're vulnerable." "I'm not vulnerable anymore. I'm strong enough to make my own choices about what I want." Sarah stood carefully, Emma sleeping peacefully in her arms. "I want you to know that I'm choosing you, not because you saved me, not because I'm grateful, but because when I imagine Emma's first steps, her first day of school, her graduation, you're there in every picture." "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Sarah smiled. "Emma needs a father figure who will love her for who she is, not what she represents. Someone who will support her choices instead of making them for her." Marcus crossed the room, wrapping his arms gently around both Sarah and Emma. "I love you both so much." "I love you too. And I want Emma to grow up seeing what real love looks like. Partnership instead of control. Respect instead of manipulation." As if sensing the moment, Emma opened her eyes and looked up at the three of them together. Her little face scrunched in what might have been a smile, or might have been gas, but Sarah chose to interpret it as approval. "She likes the idea," Sarah said, laughing softly. "Smart girl," Marcus replied. "Takes after her mother." Outside, the first light of dawn was breaking over the city. Somewhere in a prison cell, Derek Stone was waking up to another day of consequences for his actions. But in the hospital room, Sarah was waking up to the first day of her real life, a life of her own choosing, with people who loved her for exactly who she was. Emma Hope Mitchell had indeed brought hope, not just to Sarah, but to all the families Derek had tried to destroy. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the doorway of Emma's nursery, watching Marcus read Goodnight Moon for the third time. Emma gurgled happily from her crib, her eyes bright and alert as she tracked the familiar pictures. "Again," Sarah said in a squeaky voice, pretending to be Emma. Marcus laughed. "I think someone's stalling bedtime." He leaned down to kiss Emma's forehead. "Sleep tight, little one. Tomorrow we're going to the park with Amanda and Michael." The weekly gatherings of Derek's former victims and their children had become a source of healing for everyone involved. Watching the kids play together while their mothers shared their stories of recovery had created an unexpected family of sorts. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Final divorce decree signed. It's official. You're completely free." The legal proceedings had taken months, but every last connection to Derek Stone had finally been severed. Sarah's assets had been returned, victim compensation had been awarded, and Derek's parental rights had been permanently terminated. "Good news?" Marcus asked, joining Sarah in the hallway. "The best news. It's officially over." Marcus pulled her into his arms, careful not to wake Emma. "How does it feel? Like I can finally breathe?" Sarah looked up at him, still amazed sometimes by the gentleness in his eyes. "Marcus, I want to ask you something." "Anything." "I know we've been taking things slowly, being careful about Emma's adjustment and my healing, but I'm ready for more." Marcus's expression grew serious. "What kind of more?" Sarah smiled, pulling a small velvet box from her pocket. "The kind where I ask you to marry me." Marcus's eyes widened in shock. "Sarah, I know it's supposed to be the other way around, but I've learned that I like making my own choices." Sarah opened the box, revealing a simple gold band. "Marcus Hayes, will you marry me? Will you be Emma's father and my partner in building a life based on love instead of control?" Marcus was quiet for so long that Sarah started to worry. Then he started laughing, pulling out his own small box from his pocket. "I was going to ask you the same thing next week," he admitted, showing her the engagement ring he'd chosen. "Great minds think alike." "Is that a yes?" "That's a yes to everything. Marriage, partnership, being Emma's dad, growing old together, whatever you want." As they kissed, Emma's happy babbling drifted from the nursery, as if she approved of their decision. Later that evening, as they sat on the couch planning their simple wedding, Sarah's phone rang. Attorney Walsh was calling with an update on Derek's appeals. "All denied," Walsh reported. "The conviction stands. He'll die in prison." "And the other families?" "All reunifications are progressing well. Michael started calling Amanda Mom again last week. Lisa's daughter is doing wonderfully in therapy. Even the older children are beginning to understand what really happened." After the call, Sarah felt a deep sense of closure settling over her. Derek's last desperate attempts to escape justice had failed. His victims were healing, his children were reconnecting with their mothers, and his legacy of abuse had been completely dismantled. "No regrets?" Marcus asked, watching her face carefully. "Only one," Sarah replied. "I regret that it took me so long to fight back. But I'm glad I finally found the courage." "You've inspired a lot of other women to find their courage, too." Sarah had been speaking at domestic violence conferences, sharing her story to help other victims recognize the signs of systematic abuse. The response had been overwhelming. Hundreds of women reaching out with their own stories of manipulation and control. "I want to start a foundation," Sarah said suddenly. "Use Derek's seized assets to help other women escape situations like mine. That's a perfect way to turn his weapon into something healing." As they talked about their plans, the wedding, the foundation, their hopes for Emma's future, Sarah felt overwhelmed by gratitude. 6 months ago, she had been trapped in Derek's web, isolated and convinced she was powerless. Now she was engaged to a man who respected her choices, raising a daughter who would grow up knowing she could be anything she wanted, and using her experience to help other women find their freedom. Emma's soft breathing came through the baby monitor, peaceful and content. She would never know the fear Sarah had felt during pregnancy. Never doubt that she was wanted and loved for exactly who she was. "Do you think she'll ask about Derek someday?" Marcus wondered. "Probably. And I'll tell her the truth, that he was a sick man who tried to hurt us, but that love and courage won in the end. Think she'll believe in happy endings?" Sarah looked around their cozy living room, at the photos of their chosen family covering the mantel, at the man who had risked everything to save her and Emma. Outside, autumn leaves drifted past the window of their safe, peaceful home. "I think she'll know that sometimes you have to fight for your happy ending," Sarah said. "But when you do, when you refuse to give up on love and freedom and truth, the ending is even sweeter, because you earned it." Marcus squeezed her hand, and they all lived happily ever after. Sarah smiled, feeling Emma kick gently in her sleep, dreaming whatever dreams babies dream, dreams that would never be haunted by Derek Stone's cruelty. "They all lived bravely ever after," she corrected. "And that made all the difference." In a maximum security prison 3,000 miles away, Derek Stone stared at the ceiling of his cell, plotting appeals that would never succeed and schemes that would never come to fruition. His empire was gone, his victims were free, and his legacy was one of failure and defeat. But in a modest home where love had replaced control and freedom had conquered fear, a baby slept peacefully while her mother planned a wedding, and a father read bedtime stories, and justice felt like the most natural thing in the world. The nightmare was over. The dream had just begun.